Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. HTM here with a Stamina Templar PvP build. This is updated now for the Harrowstorm DLC, and I just love Stamina Templar. We have so many options for burst damage. We have great healing, great survivability and defense, and it's just one of the best all-around PvP setups in my opinion. So this is just my take on the class. This is going to be great for battlegrounds, for solo PvP, even for small group Cyrodiil. As usual, we'll go over the stats. We'll check out the gear, the skills. We'll talk about champion points. I'll talk about the armor style as well. And I'll have some gameplay at the end, so make sure you stick around to see the whole video. Stamina Templar update for PvP. Let's go. All right, so here we are, back on the Stamina Templar for some PvP action. Not necessarily a new build, but definitely a little bit of an update here for the Harrowstorm DLC. Let's go ahead and start with the buff stats on the build. Let me go ahead and pop a rally, rune, and a potion. I think that's all the buffs that we need. So 14, almost 15k max magicka, about 19k max health. PvP, of course, that will go up to about 23, 24k, almost 41k max stamina, and you can actually get that higher if you want. Coming in at about 800 stamina recovery, though we do have a lot of built-in recovery, which I'll talk about in a minute. Almost 900 health recovery. In terms of that weapon damage, just with rally, sitting at about 3,900. Of course, we do have a weapon damage enchant on the back bar. That'll give you about an extra 500, 600 weapon damage on the build. And depending on your traits, you can get this well over 5k weapon damage. We'll talk about that in a minute. Spell and physical resistance does go up quite a bit while we're in the rune with that active 26k spell resistance, almost 20k for physical resistance, 2k crit resistance, and I don't have perfect traits on this build, so that can get better as well. Everything here into max stamina, 64 points. Bewitched Sugar Skulls is going to be your best in slot food. That just gives you the max magicka, stamina, and health, plus a little bit of extra health recovery, which is actually nice. Now, I do recommend the Warrior Mundus if you're looking to get your weapon damage as high as possible. Another nice option on this build, especially for newer players, is going to be the Steed Mundus. That gives you actually two bonuses, health recovery and movement speed. So I do like that. If you're trying to improve your survivability, definitely check that out. For our potions, I'm currently just using the basic trash stamina potions. You actually have a lot of options. You, of course, can use tri-stat potions on the build, or anything else like speed potions, vitality potions, heroism potions, whatever you want to use, because we have both of our basic buffs taken care of on the Templar class. Race, you have a lot of options as well. My personal favorite for PvP on a lot of stamina classes is going to be the Nord. Nord gives you a nice bit of max health. Immunity to Chilled is also good. You get the extra max stamina, and you get the juicy ultimate generation, 5 ultimate every 10 seconds when you take damage. And then the rugged passive is very good. You get an extra 4k physical and spell resistance, making you extremely tanky, even on a medium armor setup. This is a medium armor build, by the way. That means you can stack damage while not really losing too much in terms of your defensive, so I do like this. Of course, something like Orc will give you more damage up front, more burst and speed. That's going to be a nice option. You can use Red Guard if you're having any issues sustaining. Basically, anything that you want can be worked out here on the Stamina Templar. All right, so that covers the basics. Let's jump into our sets. Starting with the first 5-piece set, I'm bringing back a good one. This is the Sheer Venom set from Imperial City. This is a medium armor set. It gives you max stamina, weapon damage again, and then when you deal damage with an execute ability, you infect the enemy, dealing around 12 to 13k poison damage over 6 seconds. This effect can occur every 6 seconds. Now, this did get buffed quite a bit recently. The damage was increased, and they also made this work better with poison injection. So since we are running a two-hand and bow setup on the Stamina Templar, I thought I would try this out again with the bow, running poison injection, and it works really, really well. You can see that does a lot of poison damage. This also scales up with your Thaumaturge CP passive, so that's something to keep in mind. And this does proc instantly now with poison injection, so that's the major change. It used to be you had to wait about 2 seconds after firing your poison injection to actually get the proc to happen. The proc will now happen instantly. So I'll show that to you in a second. but we want to run this as a back bar bow. That's going to free up our front bar to run anything that we want on the 2H. Infused here is going to be the best in slot trait. That's because you want to run that weapon damage enchantment on the back bar. That'll give you that strong weapon damage buff every 5 seconds. And then you just need to run either 3 pieces of this set on the body or the jewelry, whatever you get. You can run the vaults, the treasure vaults for the Imperial City DLC. You can actually buy those keys on Guild Traders to get this, or you can run the dungeon. So I personally am using this again on the bow for 2 pieces. Then I've got 3 pieces on the body, so chest, waist, and legs. Again, it doesn't matter what 3 pieces you get. Any 3 pieces is fine, either medium, either 3 pieces on the body, 3 pieces on the jewelry. Ideally, you want a mixture of impen as your traits and well-fitted. I'd say about 5 impen, 2 well-fitted is going to be best for this build. Now, looking at our next 5-piece set, I am choosing to run Hulking Draugr. This is what's giving us that nice stamina pool, over 40k max stamina on this setup. So if you're not familiar with the set, this gives you max stamina pretty much for everything. 2, 3, 4, and 5 pieces is all max stamina. So this comes from the Direfrost Keep dungeon. And again, where you run these pieces really does not matter. You can use a combination of jewelry, which I have here, 3 pieces of jewelry and 2 pieces on the body. You can run 5 pieces on the body and have your jewelry be sheer venom. It's really up to you and what pieces you get to drop, since this is a dungeon set. Now, this is what I'm just choosing to run. You don't have to use this. You could use another damage-oriented set, even something like New Moon Acolyte. But having the huge max stamina pool is really nice on Stamina Templar because some of our damaging abilities like Power of the Light are going to scale a little bit better thanks to those extra max stats. So in terms of jewelry enchants, you can do full weapon damage, so 3 weapon damage glyphs on this build. That's totally fine with the amount of sustain that we have from our abilities. If you're having trouble with sustaining, then maybe just drop one of those and put in a recovery glyph instead. And then the nice thing about this build too, running Hulking, is you have some options for traits. I actually like to run 1 Swift trait, but you can mix in other things like Infused for more weapon damage. If you went with 3 Infused, you could get over 5k weapon damage on the build. You can even run things like Bloodthirsty, so it's really up to you. Even the regular Robust enchant is fine. That's going to be our second 5-piece set. And then in terms of the Monster Helm, I am, again, focusing pretty much on pure single target damage. So one of the best single target stamina DPS sets in the game is going to be Celine's right now. So I am running the Celine's monster set. I've got the heavy helmet and the medium shoulders. I do recommend running at least that 1 piece of heavy for the extra defense and the extra health. So I've got the max health enchant on the heavy helmet and then a regular stamina enchant on the shoulders. Again, impenetrable is going to be your best trait. You want at least 4 or 5 impen and the rest well-fitted if you can. So that is the monster set. And then last but not least, don't forget our main 2-hand weapon. So the easiest choice here is because we're running Sheer Venom on the back bar. That's going to proc on our back bar. That gives us a free 2-hand slot on the front bar to run anything that you want. You don't have to run Sheer Venom because it's actually not necessary. So what you can do instead is something simple like an Agility 2H. Agility gives you that nice extra max stamina on the front bar. Since we're running both of our heals on the front bar, this is going to be nice. This is going to increase our heals and our damage. So I am using the 2H Agility currently with the Nirnhone trait. That's just going to maximize your weapon damage overall. Now you can choose to run poisons. Just have the crown poisons right now. Obviously you can craft those double dot poisons. Yes, you can do that if you want. And then if you don't want to run poisons, another good option is just a disease enchant for your front bar. For the potential to proc defile, that's a really nice option too. In terms of what type of 2-hand weapon, sword is fine. I mean, this gives you more damage, more healing. You can also run a 2H maul. That will give you more penetration. I think either one's really fine. It's kind of up to you and what you get. Now, other options here, instead of agility, if you have access to any arena weapons, this is a good place for it. You can put, for example, Maelstrom Battle Axe. The Maelstrom 2H, since we are using Crit Rush on the build, that's going to give you about an extra 9k damage over 5 seconds. You can combine that with an axe for even more damage over time potential. That's a pretty good option. Also, if you have the Asylum 2H, which I don't have currently, you can get more ultimate back on your execute. So definitely think about that. If you don't have any arena weapons, then just grab a agility 2H and that'll be totally fine. All right, so that covers our gear. Let's talk about skills next. Starting with the 2H bar, we're running Executioner, the namesake of this build, for that bonus execute damage. This comes from the two-handed skill line, second to last ability that you get. I prefer the Executioner morph on this build because, like I mentioned earlier, we're pretty much focused on just single target burst damage. This is going to give you the most damage possible. The other morph does slightly less damage, but gives you an AoE splash. So you can focus on AoE if you choose that morph instead, but you will get more damage choosing Executioner, so that's what I recommend on this build. Second ability is going to be Crit Rush. This is also from the two-handed skill line. Critical Rush is the morph that does more damage up front. It actually deals more damage based on how far you travel. So this is going to be your gap closer, obviously. This is going to get you into that melee range where you can do the majority of your damage. So this is a very important skill on the build. Third ability, Resolving Vigor. This is going to be our heal over time. This comes from the Assault skill line. It's the second regular ability, Resolving Vigor. That's the single target morph. Does a little bit more healing over time. So you're just going to want to pop this basically as soon as you start taking damage. Pop that Vigor so you get your health rolling back in and keep your health as high as possible. Fourth ability, we're going to go back to Templar class skills. That is Biting Jabs. That comes from Adric's Spear. That's the first ability that you get. You're going to choose the stamina morph called Biting Jabs. This is a great ability. We'll get to this more when we talk about the passives. But just on the skill alone, you get a snare, you get major savagery, so that's 10% weapon critical, and you just get a really nice physical damage skill. So basically on this build, after you gap close in with Crit Strike, you're going to hit them with Biting Jabs 2 or 3 times. Once their health starts getting low, then just hit them with that Executioner until they are dead. Easy. Last normal ability here on the front bar, we're going with Rally. That's back to the two-hand skill line. Rally is the last ability here. You do want Rally as the morph, I think, because this is our burst heal, right? This gives us minor endurance, so that's 10% stamina recovery. And then we do get that burst heal. Just keep in mind, if you're using this, the longer that the Rally buff is running, the bigger that heal is going to be. So you want it up for, I'd say, at least about 10 seconds to get a decent heal out of it. If you keep it up to the full 20 seconds, that's where you'll get the maximum heal. Now, for the ultimate on the front bar, I am running Dawnbreaker of Smiting. That comes from the Fighters Guild skill line. That is the Fighters Guild ultimate. Now, Templars do have a nice class ultimate, so you can run, actually, the Adric's Spear ultimate Empowering Sweep. But why I prefer Dawnbreaker in this case is for the stun. Now, I am not running a stun on this build other than Dawnbreaker, so it is nice to have that option. If you decide to run a stun maybe on your back bar, then you can slot something else here. But this does really good upfront burst damage. It is AoE, and like I said, we do get that stun. Being a Nord, you do get this up fairly often as well, so it's still a great option for Stamina Templar in my opinion. Back bar skill, switching to our bow, we're going to start with Poison Injection from the bow skill line. That's the last skill. You're going to morph it to Poison Injection. This does the execute damage, dealing up to 100% more damage to enemies under 50% health. So not only that, this is going to also proc Sheer Venom, which is very important as well. Next ability, Power of the Light. This is a Templar class skill, comes from Dawn's Wrath skill line. It's the third ability down. Power of the Light is the stamina morph, so that's what you want. Now this does an upfront physical damage hit, but it also copies all the damage the enemy takes for 6 seconds, and releases that damage, 20% of it, at the end of the 6 seconds. It also does minor fracture, minor breach. So, I mean, overall, you're getting a lot from this. You're also getting tons of bonuses from the passives, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. This is a great group utility skill, and it also is a burst skill. So once you apply your Poison Injection, just throw on Power of the Light before you bar swap, and then you'll go into all your damaging abilities, Crit Rush, Jabs, and of course Executioner, and then after 6 seconds, that's going to pop and that's going to deal additional damage. So that's really why this build has so much burst potential, is yes, you've got the execute ability on the front bar, you've got Poison Injection on the back bar dealing execute damage, and then to top it all off, you have that basically almost a third execute that explodes after 6 seconds. Just keep that in mind. Your rotation is basically 6 seconds. You want to deal as much damage in 6 seconds as possible to make sure Power of the Light hits as much as possible. Third ability on the back bar, Repentance. This skill is amazing, you guys. Make sure you're checking this out. That's the third ability from the Restoring Light skill line. And what this does is kind of like a Necromancer, you need a corpse on the ground. And for each corpse on the ground, when you use this ability, you heal yourself and your group, and you restore 3,000 stamina to yourself. So this is our sustain tool. I don't have very high sustain on the build, but I can get 3,000 stamina back instantly per corpse. So as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you know, basically killing enemies, then the sustain on this build is pretty much infinite through the Repentance skill. So I love it. It's amazing. It also gives you a bunch of passives on the back bar while having this slotted, so that's cool as well. But definitely practice using this. It takes a little bit of getting used to. You have to get used to basically swapping to your back bar as soon as you get a kill to pop Repentance and get that extra sustain coming in. Next, we've got Ritual of Retribution. This is also from the Templar class skill line. Now there's 2 morphs here, and they're both good. Ritual of Retribution does a little bit of AoE damage, so this is nice. Puts that huge AoE damage circle on the ground, so I find like enemies just want to stay out of it regardless. So it's kind of a good defensive tool in that way. But you can also run the other morph, Extended Ritual, will actually cleanse you from more effects. So it is up to you. I'd recommend checking out both. If you're facing a lot of dot-heavy opponents, you probably want Extended Ritual, and then Retribution is going to give you more damage. Then our last normal ability here is going to be Restoring Focus. This is also from the Restoring Light tree. That's the last ability. Restoring Focus is the stamina morph. And this is amazing. It gives us defenses, gives us 50% bonus defenses when you're standing in the rune, which is this little area right here. You'll get 50% extra armor. And then it does give us that 240 stamina back every 1 second. So that doesn't show up on your stat sheet. But that's equivalent basically to almost 500 extra recovery. So this rune combined with our Repentance, that's where our sustain is coming from. Makes it pretty easy to sustain on this build. Again, as long as you're getting the kills and as long as you keep your rune up. Now for the back bar ultimate, I just have Remembrance slotted here. That's a very easy ultimate to run. Also from Restoring Light, this gives tons of healing to you and your group. Also major protection. Also we get lots of armor from our passives. So that's always a great option. If you have Psijic Order unlocked, you can use the Psijic Order Undo ultimate here. That's another really good option. You could even do Nova from the Dawn's Wrath skill line if you're playing more of a group-oriented build. But right now on this setup, I prefer Remembrance just for the extra healing. All right, so that covers the abilities. Let's talk about passive next. Templars have some of the best class passives in the game for sure. So make sure you're picking these up. In Adric's Spear, Piercing Spear does increase critical damage. Basically, your critical strikes will hit that much harder, so that's great. Spearwall, we talked about this. The passive defense of the Templar class is amazing. You get minor protection for 6 seconds every time you use one of those abilities. Guess what? Our main spammable is an Adric's Spear ability. You can see that little armor buff up here. I'm getting minor protection for free. Burning Light, you do extra bonus damage up to 6k physical damage when using jabs, and that can happen every half second. So this is extra burst potential even on the Templar. And then Balance Warrior, we get the extra weapon damage, we get the extra spell resistance, so that's all good. Make sure you get all those passives. In the Dawn's Wrath skill line, Enduring Rays, this does not affect Power of the Light, so I'm not getting much out of this, though if you decide to use the Nova ultimate, that will increase the duration of Nova, so that is a good one. Prism, we talked about this. Every 6 seconds, you cast a Dawn's Wrath ability, you get 3 ultimate back. Well, guess what? Power of the Light is a 6-second ability, so every time you cast this, if you're casting it on cooldown, you're getting your ultimate back, which is great. Illuminate, this is more of a group buff. You do give your group minor sorcery, so that's not bad. And then Restoring Spirit, you get cost reduction for everything, including your ultimate. That makes the Dawnbreaker of Smiting not that hard to get up, especially on the Nord, if that's your race. Restoring Light, these have to do more with like group play and resurrection. They are good though. I would recommend you pick up all of these. Two-hander, obviously you'll want all of your two-handed passives in this skill line. That's very important. Bow as well, since we are running a bow back bar, you'll want all of these. The one passive to make sure you're using is called Hasty Retreat. That's the last passive from the bow skill line, and you actually get Major Expedition for 4 seconds after you roll. So if you're trying to get away from somebody, don't stay on your front bar. What you want to do probably just pop a Vigor on your front bar, swap to your back bar, and then roll dodge so you get that extra movement speed for 4 seconds. That's really, really helpful. What else? You'll want your medium armor passives. You don't need improved sneak. You can pick up your heavy armor passives if you're wanting at least one piece of heavy. Fighter's Guild obviously is very important. All of these are good. Slayer increases your weapon damage. Banish the Wicked gives you more ultimate. Skill Tracker, that means your Dawnbreaker is going to do more damage against the undead. So very good there. Undaunted I don't have unlocked on this character. You will want that for extra max stats if you have it. Assault, since this is a PvP build, make sure you're picking up Combat Frenzy. 20 ultimate when you kill a player is huge. That means you're going to be pumping out those Dawnbreakers very, very quickly. And then obviously you want your racial skills and alchemy medicinal use to make those potions last as long as possible. Let's do a quick rotation so you can kind of see what the combo looks like. Now, these enemies are not going to even last through half of the rotation, so let me see if I can explain it. So buff up with Rally, buff up with Rune. Then you're going to start always with Poison Inject, a Light Attack, and then Power of the Light. That's how you initiate. So Poison Inject is going to proc that Sheer Venom. Let's see if we can see the debuff show up. So Sheer Venom is that red, looks like a bleed. You can see they're taking tons of damage. Put on Power of the Light, and then you're going to crit rush in. Jabs. They're dead already, but then you hit your Executioner basically until they're dead. And then here's the corpses. Make sure you always use Repentance for the sustain. That's basically how that works. Quickly, let's look at champion points. So in the green tree, 31 into Warlord, 35 Sprinter, 37 Healthy, 32 Arcanist, 75 into Mooncalf, 31 Shadow Ward, 28 into Tumbling. In the blue tree, 23 Blessed, 66 Master at Arms, 40 into Thaumaturge, 28 Precise Strikes, 57 Piercing, 56 into Mighty. In the red tree, 51 Ironclad, 57 Resistant, 56 into Hardy and Elemental Defender, 18 into Thick Skins. Remember, you can cleanse on a Templar. And then just 32 into Quick Recovery. Outfit styles, if you're wondering what this is a specific style actually from one of the events. The chest is called... this is Saisahan's Jack from the anniversary event. So that's the main style that I'm using. The shoulders, that kind of off-shoulder look, that's actually mercenary. That's heavy mercenary. And then for the sword, I'm just using the regular two-hand Imperial sword because it's free. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap up the Stamina Templar PvP Executioner build. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. This was a lot of fun to put together. Feels good to be back in PvP again. And there's some gameplay here at the end. Make sure you check that out in case you want to see more about how the build plays and feels. Of course, if you guys enjoyed this video today, make sure you crush that like button for me. It definitely helps the channel out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I do weekly build videos here on the channel as well as ESO guides and ESO discussions. So make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss anything. If you'd like more information about how to support the channel, there is that join button. You can check that out by clicking down below. And if you all have any questions or suggestions on what build you might want to see next, maybe another PvP build, who knows? Let me know in the comments section below. As always, you guys are amazing. Thanks so much for watching today. Stay safe out there, stay healthy, and I will see you around in the next video.
well tonight!
We shall carry the day!